We're here to remember. The way of the initiate, the path of the initiate is about remembering. It's not about healing. It's not about awakening. You've done that. You've done the path. You've been doing the healing for a long time. You've done it for lifetimes. You have awakened because that's why you're here. Because I'm sure that most of you have done the inner child work. You've done the somatic work. You've done the healing work, right? You've done all of these things, and yet there's still something there calling you, asking you, what else? What's next? And that's what we're going to dive into today. We're going to really start to implement this into this next age, this next evolution that we are all walking into together. Before we walk the path of the initiate, we must recognize when the path is already walking us. Many of you are here not because you're seeking, but because your soul has already begun. Do you feel it? I feel it. I feel the recognition of what's been showing up in our world, in the way that we have been moving through so many experiences with new information coming in. I've been speaking to students and friends and so many around understanding this Sophia Christ consciousness, this Buddha consciousness, this unity consciousness, but this galactic wisdom that goes beyond Earth and into the star nations that is here for us to awaken to. And so here are 5 signs that you might already be in the temple. And I'd love to know, after I read these, you can put it in the comments, leave it for me and let me know, like, how are these showing up for you in your life? Number 1, the old structures, the structures of your old life are crumbling. This is what I call the descent. It's a sacred dismantling. What no longer resonates with your divine architecture begins to fall away. So this is relationships, identities, careers, even beliefs. And it's not a destruction. It's a sacred clearing for your true codes to emerge. Let me tell you, at the age of 47, if I were to go back and speak to my 20-year-old self, and told her the beliefs that I have now about life and the world, she would have locked me up. She would have for sure been like, you're crazy. Now, at the age of 20, I was having panic attacks. I landed myself in the hospital more times than you could imagine. I was also pregnant at the age of 20. I was a junior in college. And I believed very much in the reality of the world. I was on antidepressants, bipolar medication. I had physical issues, trauma from my childhood, a 10 out of 10 on the ACE score. At the age of 20, even though I had read the Celestine prophecy and had done, all of these things, I had so much trauma from my sexual trauma, from the abuse as a child. And although I was a high achiever, had gotten all of the scholarships, I scored the highest on the ACT score of anyone in my school ever. It was brilliant. I was told I had a genius IQ at the age of 5. So I had all of these things, and yet I lived in a world where I believed that my reality was exactly what it was, and it created a lot of trauma that then, several years later, sent me down a world of drug trafficking. That then led me to nearly killing 2 of my closest friends when I overdosed them. And so if I were to go back and talk to that 20-year-old and tell them that I am a channel and an oracle, and I work with quantum physics and neuroscience, and that I've spoke on thousands of stages all over the world and helped people heal and have, taught for years about this wisdom, she would look at me and be like, it's not possible. And I wouldn't have believed it was possible back then either. But that's the descent. It's the dismantling. And my life has been dismantled many, many times. I've been homeless. I've lived in my car. I escaped drug trafficking, barely with my life. I have moved many times. I've gone through relationships, people, places, things, and I have healed every disorder and dis-ease that I supposedly had that showed up physically and mentally and emotionally in my field at that time. I'm literally what people would call a walking miracle. And so what I know is that it's not a miracle. It's possible for anyone. And that's what we're here to share and to learn and to move towards. Because we are waking into an experience now where the ascension is happening for Mother Gaia and for us. And yet the ascension really is nothing more than a remembering of who we really are and the superhuman nature of ourselves. But you have to descend and dismantle your experience to have that happen. And so in the first trimester of our mystery school, the Sacred Soul Alchemy Mystery School, we go into the descent. We go into the depths, into the trauma, into the womb, into the dark, to dismantle all of the things that are not working for you and clear it out so that your true codes can emerge. So initiation begins not with a vision, but with a collapse. Number 2, time feels different. Yeah. Maybe you're experiencing deja vu or timeline loops or quantum leaps or distorted memories. This is not a confusion. It is your multidimensional self integrating. The spiral nature of time begins to reveal itself. So sometimes you may even feel out of time because you're learning to navigate across timelines. And so I always say that deja vu is when you have a moment in 2 different timelines where they converge. And you're seeing yourself or remembering something from that other timeline, and you're there at both of those times right then. We can go deep into timeline mastery and understanding how we can quantum leap or jump timelines or understand this. But right now, just understand that time feels different. And one of the things that we dive into in the Sacred Soul Alchemy Mystery School is the understanding of how do we play with time. I'm always on time. I always have more than enough time. Writing a book, running a business, traveling around the world. Everything that I do, most of the people in my life are like, how do you have enough time? Because I live in quantum time. And you can too, when you learn the principles of how to play with this. So I was wondering, how is time feeling different for you? There's time when things pass, so quickly and everything is going so fast. And then there's times where it just feels like everything is standing still. Time is the construct that we've created in a linear realm to allow us to perceive the world in a certain way, and yet we can play with that. Number 3, your nervous system is on a roller coaster. So what's happening here, your body becomes the vessel of reconfiguration. And as you are stepping into working in spiritual work, healing, moving things, what we end up doing is it's like sometimes we are plugging a 220 into a 110. And when you do that, your nervous system isn't ready for it yet. So you may have highs and lows or anxiety or ecstatic bliss, or you may have all of a sudden an injury that shows up. Why is it that one day when you step off of the curb and twist your ankle in a certain way, it's fine and you keep walking, and the next time you step off and you twist it and it breaks? Same exact movement. The difference is what's happening within your nervous system and in your body and in your energy field. So an initiation, it's biological. It's literally rewiring the body temple. This is the embodiment of light. And you have to learn how to harness it. So one of the most important things that you can do is work with somatic experience, understanding how and why sacred geometry, the movements in your body, when you put them into certain positions, when you use them in certain ways, when you move breath through them in certain ways, it's healing your nervous system. And if you have a refined nervous system, you can reach higher levels of consciousness. Think of it as the antenna. Your body is the antenna. And if this antenna is pointed over here, you're going to be bringing in the frequencies from over here, and they're going to come in distorted. And so we want to allow for the nervous system to rewire itself and move into this space. So how many of you are noticing things like your nervous system or that the physical experiences of what's happening right now? The next, number 4, your dreams and intuition are waking up. Maybe they're experiencing symbols or seeing a lot of numerology, right? Or you're noticing your dreams are taking you to different places. You're getting gut hits all the time. So the veil is thinning, the symbols appear, and you begin to receive messages from your star family, from your ancestors, from your inner oracle. This is the reclaiming of your intuitive technology. It's what the ancients called the Eye of Horus, the Syrian mirror, the Magdalene voice. This is awakening within you, and you have to learn how to harness it. How do I understand to be able to interpret what my intuition is telling me? How do I know what that means? Or do I even recognize that it's actually happening? I have a wonderful client / student of mine who's been with me for a few years now. She's always getting messages. And yet she doesn't ever think that she's getting them until we went to Egypt this year, and then she finally figured it out. And it's figuring out, how do I understand this? So your dreams and your intuitions are waking up. And then the 5th sign that you are in an initiation and not just an awakening or a healing is you have a field called to serve in a deeper way. You have a sense that your gifts are not just for you. They are for the collective. And this is the archetype of where the priestess or the grid keeper or the oracle begins to emerge, because you're being summoned to the altar of your own destiny. You're being asked to open up and not only integrate and heal and work on it, but then share it. And that could be sharing it on a large scale or with the person standing next to you. I think so many times when we hear about service, especially I work with a lot of healers that are wanting to create businesses or things like that, that think that they have to do something so grand and fantastic. And yet what it is the within then is the without. So I'm curious, how are you feeling that call, noticing it? I'm curious, how many of you are feeling a deep spiritual hunger? Yet you feel maybe overwhelmed by the fragmented teachings, or you're burnt out from healing cycles that never seem to end. Maybe you're disconnected from your power or your voice or your soul's purpose and mission. You're not quite sure what that is yet. If you're anything like me, maybe you feel like you don't belong in the mainstream, but you haven't quite found, I never felt like I fit in. I've always been an outsider from the time I can remember. And it took me a really long time to find my true soul family. Maybe you're like, I don't fit in, but I haven't found my soul family yet. Well, we're right here. Or maybe you're haunted by past life memories, vivid dreams, or unexplained initiatory symptoms. And so there could be a place where you're stuck in that in between. You're not asleep, you're awake, but you're not fully activated yet. You're aware of your gifts, but you're afraid to step into visibility and sacred leadership. But you know still that you feel like maybe there's something missing, something older, something deeper, a path that doesn't just fix, it initiates you. And that's what we're going to talk about today, is the 12-step path of the initiate. So initiation is not a human construct. It is actually a cosmic law built into the spiral of life. From the 12 petals of the heart to the 12-strand DNA template to the 12 temples of initiation in Sirius and Venus to the 12 of the zodiac, right? The 12, there's this encoding of 12 that we're going to dive into and understand. But this is not about becoming something new. It's about reactivating what was seeded in you long before Earth. Each phase of initiation matches a key in your energetic field. It matches a chakra, a solar ray, a geometric gate, a dimension of the soul, one of the strands of your DNA. An initiation is your divine design unfolding. So there's a difference between the awakening and the initiation. And so I want to really figure out, like, how many of you are like, I know that we'll go see, we look at, yes, here, growing and emerging, ones, lots of ones, beautiful. So the awakening is the opening of the eye, but the initiation is the walk through the fire. Awakening may come from a breathwork session or a plant medicine ceremony or a sudden Kundalini rise or years of doing that healing work. But initiation is what comes after. It is the integration, the embodiment, the path of refinement. In awakening, we see. In initiation, we become. So initiation refines your frequency so that your light becomes your life. And to understand initiation now in our modern era, we must remember how it was first given. So there was ancient civilizations like Kemet, which is Egypt, Sumer, India, Avalon, Atlantis. These existed sacred orders that were called the mystery schools. And they were not just places of philosophy. They were temples of transformation. To become an initiate was not merely to learn. It was to be remade. And I think that that's where we've gotten off in a lot of ways into where we're at in the world right now. We read a lot of books, we get a lot of information. And yet, are we literally walking the path every day? Are we taking the steps? Are we going through the fire? Are we working with it? Or are we taking in more information? You're all here today on this masterclass with me, right? This webinar, you're here to learn the path of the initiate, and this is yet not enough. I'm going to give you the path. I'm going to share the steps with you, but then I'm going to invite you in to honor it by stepping into it and taking the path to do the embodiment of it. The ancient initiates were chosen through signs and soul recognition. They were oracles, they were seers, they were alchemists, they were priestesses, they were guardians of sacred knowledge, and so are you. I can guarantee if you are here today, it is because you have walked the path of an initiate in some other lifetime. And the ancient initiates, they entered long rites, fasting, dreaming, temple study, silence, purification, death, rebirth rituals, all of the things that we have fun playing with in the mystery school. In this round that we're doing, the 2.0 new human, it's a 9-month journey. One of the first things, surprise to those of you that have already signed up, that we're doing is a fasting/dark experience. Maybe the first time ever that you've actually thought about fasting and how that can work with you, or how to go into the dark, the womb. That's part of the descent. So not only did they enter these long rites, but they also studied the science of the soul, frequency, geometry, sound, time, astrology, star wisdom, DNA activation, the nature of death and immortality. And so each initiate was prepared to carry the codes of creation into their community, not to lead with ego, but to anchor truth. And so these Egyptian temples and these temples in these other lands were not symbolic. They were living technologies. And the Essene communities were not passive. They were keepers of galactic gnosis, guardians of the Christic frequencies seated through Sirius and Venus. But then we ask, well, why was it secret, right? Because right now, it's all coming forward. It was held secret because the wisdom was powerful, because frequency misuse became manipulation, because awakening in an unprepared vessel causes destruction and not liberation. If you've ever had a friend or somebody that you know that has had a spontaneous Kundalini awakening, ask them about how their life was destroyed for several years after that. It's not a fun process if you don't know what to do with it and your body can't handle it. So because of this, the rites were guarded, and only those who had passed through inner death and rebirth, those who had proven their purity, were permitted to carry these codes. This is why the mysteries were hidden. But now the earth has shifted, and it is now open because the veils are thinning, because humanity is ready, because the old grid is crumbling and the new earth needs leaders who remember. And because you have walked into those ancient mystery schools and being encoded into your DNA this information already, and now you're to remember it in this lifetime. So this 12-star lineages, including the Syrians, the Venusians, the Lemurians, the Atlantean priesthood, they're reactivating their codes in those who hold the soul contracts to awaken now. You. So the mystery school is not new. It's ancient and galactic, and it's returning through you. What was once reversed, yes. What was once reserved for the few is now awakening in the many, but the path must still be walked with devotion. How many of you are ready to step in and walk a path of devotion to yourself? One of the things that I warn most people about is it's not easy. This isn't some sort of experience where all of a sudden I'm like, yes, let's do it. Here I go. And then all of a sudden you're like, everything becomes roses and rainbows and butterflies and the life and world is amazing. Yeah, nah. Initiation is walking through the fire. So sometimes it gets worse before it gets better. I know that in 2022, when I went through my last phase of initiation, I mean, my whole life blew up again. And I've been doing this work since 2009 at that point. So 13 years in, 7 people died. I lost my best friend and my lover, my business, my home, moved out of the country, started completely over again for like the 5th time in my life. And yet it was the most beautiful experience because I had done so much work prior to that. I was ready for it. I was willing to say yes. I walked into it with a lot of like gratitude for what was coming. And out of it came the mystery school, my book, new opportunities, all sorts of incredible things that I would have never expected, nor was I trying to manifest, because I wasn't trying to manifest or create anything. So now, when we speak of the 12-phase initiatory path, we are not teaching you something new. We are restoring what you already hold. And this path, this spiral, is what we walk together inside the mystery school. So I'm going to share with you how this spiral fold of transformation works and how you can start to implement it in your life right now. Before I do that, though, I want to share the lineage of what I call the Galactic Mystery Schools, the timelines of where mystery schools have come from and how this spiral of the 12 phases comes from this experience. Okay? So pre-10,000 BCE, we had the Lemurian and the Atlantean ages. And this is the Lemuria. The Lemuria is the original earth-based civilizations where beings lived in harmony with nature and the cosmos. Spiritual practices were intuitive and heart-centered. And Atlantis was a highly civilized, advanced civilization known for its spiritual and technological achievements. And the Atlantean mystery schools focused on the integration of science and spirituality, preparing souls for higher consciousness. Then something happens. And that wisdom needs to be guarded and held and taken care of and brought into more of the ancient mystery schools, such as the Essene mystery schools, or the Egyptian mystery schools, the Essenes, the Vedic mystery schools. the mystery schools of Greece. And so we had the Egyptian mystery schools that were circa 3000 BC to 30,000 BC. And that was the temples of light. And so those were in centers like Abydos, Dendera, Philae, and they served as initiation sites where priests and priestesses underwent rigorous training in sacred sciences, including astrology, alchemy, and the healing arts. And then there's also the teachings that are attributed to Thoth, the Hermetic wisdom, right? The as above, so below, and also the Isis priestesshood. And then from that, we have the Essene lineage, which is about around the 2nd century to the 1st century, 2nd century BC to 1st century AC, which was the communities of light, the Essenes, including figures like Yeshua and Magdalene, preserved and practiced the ancient mysteries, emphasizing purity and community living, spiritual discipline, integration of wisdom from these more ancient teachings from the Atlantean, the Lemurian, the Egyptian, the Vedic. And now, post-century, right, post-1st century CE to present, we are in what I call the Galactic Mystery Schools era. What does that mean? Well, this is the Starseed activations. This is souls from star seeds like Sirius, Pleiades, Arcturus, incarnated on Earth to assist in the evolution, bringing back this advanced knowledge and these technologies. We have the contemporary modern mystery schools that are bringing this ancient wisdom, and today's seekers are looking to facilitate personal and planetary ascension. And that's what we're here to do. We're bridging this work together, bringing these things into a deeper understanding. So I'm going to share with you the 12 steps on the path, and then we're going to go back and talk a little bit deeper about some of these lineages and how to start working with them. So what I'm about to share, it's not conceptual. It is encoded in your soul. It is the architecture of transformation that unfolds within the sacred spiral of 12. And it is not a linear process. And so at the end of this transmission today, I'm going to be guiding you through a gate of galactic remembrance, a visualization to help you reconnect to your soul's lineage, your original mission, and the temple that lives within you. And we're going to be returning you to that. So after we're done going through these phases of initiation and sharing this, I'm going to be sharing this beautiful gate of galactic remembrance with you. And it's not just a meditation, it's really a return into the awakening. And so the core of the mystery school in the 9-month journey is the 12 phases of initiation. And I just want you to hear and listen and keep, maybe you even write down like, oh, definitely have gone through this one. Gone through that one, maybe still working on that one, see where you're at and know that since it's a spiral, there's 12 and you go through them, right? And then you can come back and go through them again. I know every single one of you here has already experienced this first one. How do I know? Because you're here. It's called the soul calling. You've all been called. Your soul is already calling. And it begins with a whisper. It's like a knowing that you can't explain. It's an ache that says, there's more for me. You've all been called to that. And this is where the calling of the soul then says, okay, now that I'm here, I must go figure it out. I must go find the next thing or see what my soul is calling me to. And then we go into 2. The descent, right? And again, these are not always linear, but I'm sharing them in a linear fashion right now. The descent. To rise, you must first descend. And this is where I seem to find a big challenge in a lot of the work that I see when people are doing spiritual work. They're not grounding into the physical body. They're not working with the root. They're not working with the descent. They're not understanding how we work into that body. This is the underworld. It's where you meet your shadows. Everybody wants to activate their 12-strand DNA and be way up here and do this, but let me tell you, that's awesome. And I know you want to connect with the entities or the galactics or your guides or all those things, but if you're not grounded in and you haven't gone through this work in the descent, it's only going to cause challenges in your foundation. If your foundation, when you build a building, if your foundation is not set, what happens when you try to build on it? It crumbles. Yep. I see Patty. Oh. Yeah. So the first trimester of our mystery school is called the Descent, and it's broken into 3 different avenues. And it's because you must. This is the sacred underworld. This is where you clear your karmic patterns. This is where you burn your false identities. This is where you meet your shadows. This is where you reclaim safety, sovereignty, your soul remembrance. You anchor into your earth temple. And so you learn that the beauty of shadow alchemy, soul contract rituals, ancestral healings to hold you as you journey into your depths. If you've ever worked with the medicine wheel from shamanic traditions, it always starts with that. You go into the south. Number 3 is purification. Your vessel must be cleared. So purification can happen on many levels: mental, physical, emotional, spiritual. Old programming, inherited trauma, collective density. You can release it through breath, sound, geometry, energetic rites. We got to think about how purified have you worked with your system? How purified are your thoughts? If you want to learn how to master these other things, you've got to learn purification in so many ways. So why would you fast? I fast 3 days every new moon. Physical purification. I'm getting ready to leave right now in 12 hours to head to Mount Shasta for 5 days for purification. I've been eating vegetarian for over a week. No caffeine. What else? No sex. At least for a couple days. I'm clearing all of the things so that I can go into the mountains to receive codes. I'm purifying myself to allow for myself to experience this completely. And now, once I'm leaving now, I will fast for the next 24 hours until we start our experience next in Mount Shasta tomorrow night. So you'll also learn through these to receive practices. We use practices from the Temple of Isis, Lemurian light body clearing as part of this purification, how to work with the womb and in the dark, right? Like you want to purify your system. Breath work. How many of you think I'm like, I still got some things I need to purify? Number 4 in the spiral of the 12 steps of the initiate is energy mastery. You need to learn how to govern your field. This is powerful. This is the foundation of all manifestation. And one of the mystery school's core monthly practices. You learn to work with your chakras. You'll learn figure 8 energy flows, breath work, sacred movement. You become the keeper of your own frequency. How do you master your energy? This is a sacred step to understanding. Like let's do it now. Like everybody, just let's play with energy. Just rub your hands together for a moment. And then you start to feel that vibration. And then just pull your hands out. Just start to see if you can feel that ball of energy in your hands. And then allow it to get bigger. Love to hear how many of you, like, yeah, I feel it. Do you feel that energy? That's you. When you learn how to harness that energy, you can heal physical ailments disappear. It's possible. Did you come into this life with a thing, or did you created through an experience, right? Everything is in your energetic field. And when you learn to heal those distortions, you can play with this energy, you can heal your body. Because again, we want to heal the nervous system to allow for that divine light, to allow for your Ka body, your light body to expand. Number 5 is your voice and vision. This is when your inner oracle awakens. Especially for women, but also men, we're here to reclaim our voice, whether through sound, channeling, writing, truth speaking. The throat chakra, and so many, has been shut down. I can remember before I actually got into this work, when I was first doing health coaching, one of my very first clients that I had in 2010 had a thyroid condition. And we were doing health work stuff, right? I was teaching her how to, the right foods to eat, the different things like that. And actually, I think this was a little later, maybe not my first client, maybe 2011. Anyways. And yet the doctor was saying she didn't want to take medication, so she had this thyroid condition. And I decided to go beyond food and start working with the voice, with her speaking her truth, with the way that she was working into things. So after 3 months of working on just the food as a health coach and a holistic hormone therapist, we started to dive deeper into what was behind what was going on. And this is actually the client that, because of the healing that she had, that I decided to go into energy work. This is the reason why I went the way that I did, because I was like, what did we just do? I have to figure this out. I'm going to go take the deep dive. Within 3 months, still had the thyroid condition, working on the food. That last 3 months, we really worked on transforming her voice and the way that she spoke. And she was literally able to speak to her husband at the time. She ended up going to the doctor at the end of our 6 months, and the doctors were like, you're completely cured. You don't have hypothyroidism anymore. What did you do? And of course, she told them, well, we did this stuff and everything. And they're like, yeah, no, I don't believe any of that. They didn't believe it, right? What I know to be true, that was my first recognition of the healing power of what we can do when we work with our energy, and specifically healing with our voice and our vision. So that back then led me into, that was the first aha for me, because I studied at the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. That was my first aha into, I've got to go into that. And that was actually what got me into studying quantum physics and neuroscience, and then into the chakras and the Reiki. It was like, because I was like, I want to know what I did. I want to know what we did. I want to know what happened. How did we heal this? How did this happen? What was going on? That's the key with the voice. The second is your vision, right? Your third eye opens. You remember how to see. And so these 2 chakras, right? They're guided through the Egyptian sound codes, the Magdalene voice rituals. We have to learn how to open up. If you want to be the oracle, the channel, which is one of the steps of the initiation, it's like learning how to work with this energy. Number 6, ancestral liberation. So you break the bloodline spell. You hear the saying that there are 7 generations, right? We pass down 7 generations of trauma. You can also pass down 7 generations of really good stuff. But through ceremony and ritual, quantum field work, you learn to release what your lineage could not. You become the healing for that your family prayed for. So learning things like ancestral altar work, altar ceremonies, ways to work with the ancestral lineage, breaking up that barriers, helps heal your entire line, that then passes through you to the rest of your lineage that will be here after you decide to leave this round of your body. Number 7 on the path of the initiation is understanding your starseed memories. I'd love to know, How many of you have a memory of a life beyond Earth? Or even if you don't have the memory, you know in somewhere in your soul that you have an origin beyond Earth. So you remember your origin beyond Earth, whether it's Syrian or Venusian, Palladian. So there's so many. You begin to embody your multidimensional self. So the key is that you're learning to activate your starseed DNA. You get galactic transmissions. You remember journeys through time and space. You want to begin every single one layer of the 12 strands of DNA is connected to a star seed lineage. It's connected to a star lineage, not seed, a star lineage. And so as you activate going from your 2 strands of DNA to the 12 strand full DNA, every single one of those has memories encoded in it from that lineage for you. So you start to awaken those memories, and then you get to remember who you are. I know I have remembered several of my starseed lifetimes at this time. This is what happens when you start to activate your memories, the starseed memories, the pieces of this. You get to then bring those gifts into this life. I know for a fact, as each of my lineages and my memories have been activated, that information has come back in, that my gifts have changed, the way that I heal, the way that things show up, the light language that comes through. And I don't know it for myself personally. I know it from the responses that I get from my students that have been with me for years, or from the community that all of a sudden says, oh my God, what did you just do? That's different. And I'm like, oh yeah, that just activated this thing when I was in Egypt last time. So that's one of the beauties that can happen. Number 8 is sacred union. You're here to learn to merge your inner masculine, that divine feminine. I truly believe that that's what the twin flame truly means. The twin flame is the marriage within yourself, and allowing those two to come together, which then can lead to conscious partnership, beautiful outward experiences. And so we dive deep into understanding the Venusian and the Magdalene, the rites of sacred union, how that works, thinking quantum, and then on the level of quantum physics and quantum entanglement, the yin yang energy, as above, so below, masculine, feminine, within, without, polarity. Everywhere that we go, it's all trying to tell us the same thing. Dun, 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 bringing it together. Number 9 is our divine DNA activation. This is the code, the spark, the flame. Think about it. I remember when I was in college in the late 1990s, they were getting ready to do the Human Genome Project. What were we told when they did it about DNA? 90% of your DNA is junk. 90%. I mean, come on. We're really, I always think about this. I'm like, we don't think scientists are stupid, and I don't really want to say that way in that way, but to say that out loud as a scientist, I'm a scientist. To say that out loud as a scientist and be like, 90% of your DNA is junk, just makes you wonder what they were afraid of finding, which is that it's not junk, it's multidimensional, it has light receptors on it, light is encoded with information, light filaments come into your DNA, and all of your information for all of your lifetimes is in that dormant DNA, not junk DNA. And so you're beginning to turn on those dormant strands of your DNA, moving from the 2 strands to the 12, and we activate that crystalline light within yourselves. This is really powerful to understand the activation of our DNA and how every single one of those strands connects into the star lineages that seeded this beautiful planet Mother Gaia that we live on. Number 10 is embodied leadership. one of the greatest compliments that I've ever received from a student or anyone that I've ever worked with is that I walk my walk and I talk my talk. I live the embodiment of the things that I teach. I do the ceremonies. I do the rituals. I live in the truth. I show up in all of those ways. And I am imperfectly perfect. Yeah, I cuss, right? Like all the things. I am human and I am spirit. I am that, you are that. And when I make a mistake or I fall or I don't do something, that is in alignment, I immediately figure out what I need to do to get back into that alignment. I literally told someone earlier this week, I said, whatever you do, don't get me into more karma. I'm done with it in this lifetime. Literally, I was like, you know what? I'm not creating any more karma in this life. I don't care what I got to do. I'm walking the fine line of like healing this stuff, and we're going to do it this way. And so I live in that. So how do you live in your embodiment and the leadership in your life, whether that's the leader of your family or friends or in actual community? Number 11 is planetary service. Now, this can sound like, oh, wow, that sounds like a lot. But let me put it to you in this way. It's you taking your place in the web, right? In the divine matrix, in the God field, whether it's as a grid worker or a frequency holder or a channel or a guardian of the new earth. We want to prepare you to walk as a temple in motion. So when I say that, when I say planetary service, it's the beingness of who you are, meaning you're not needing to do more once you are in this, right? You are walking as that. Activating portals, guiding ceremonies, anchoring light. You become that by the practice of who you are. So even if you're not doing this as a service to the world, a career or whatever, and yet you do all of this work on yourself and you walk as that embodied light, just by walking that way, you are servicing the planet more than you could ever imagine. And number 12 is Galactic Embodiment. And this is where you're merging time, star, soul, and earth. You're walking as the new human, luminous, sovereign, encoded. Right? You're learning divine DNA, light body activation, the rebirth of your true self. We're working through bringing in these codes of the new human, the 12 chakras, the 12 strands of DNA, the 12 archetypal phases, the 12 star lineages, the 12 dimensions of reality, right? All of these. Even think about it. For those of you that follow the Christian religion, Yeshua, 12 disciples. It's all codes of information. Each of these phases is a gate of remembrance. It's a layer of your soul being revealed. It's waiting for you to show through this. And the Sacred Soul Alchemy Mystery School is the living embodiment of this path. It's not just a course. It's not a container. It's a temple. And so if your soul has been stirring and you're not just here to listen, you're here to walk through the gate. Beautiful. So how many of you here are ready to walk through your gate of remembrance? So I want to first share with you about the invitation to the temple. So this isn't just a course. It's a remembering of who you are. And this is for those of you, again, if you have a deep spiritual hunger and yet you're overwhelmed by fragmented teachings, or you're feeling burnt out from healing cycles that never seem to end, you're disconnected or want to enhance your power, your voice, your soul's purpose, your mission. You're looking to have soul family because you feel like you're a little bit of an outsider and you're like, I need family. You're haunted by past life memories, vivid dreams, unexplained initiatory symptoms, or you're aware that your gifts are awakening, but you're really not, you're afraid. You're like, I don't know how to step into them visibly, into that sacred leadership. I'm not sure how to do it completely. Or maybe you're stuck in the in-between. You're not asleep, right? If you're here, you're awake, meaning you have opened your eyes. That's what I remember when I said the difference between awakening and initiation. You've opened your eyes. You wouldn't be here if you weren't already awake. But now you're here to learn how to embody it, how to activate it, how to walk in it. Maybe you're looking for a true soul-rooted path with depth, structure, and sacred mystery, learning to activate your divine DNA in your light body. Spiritual practices that honor both ancient wisdom and modern science. This isn't about more knowledge. It's about giving you the transformation that you're really seeking. It's about your return to power, your purpose, your soul remembrance. It's the temple you've been dreaming of in visions and dreams and lifetimes. I see you. You've walked through the fire. You've sat in the ceremonies. You've prayed under the eclipses. You've read the books. You've taken the trainings. And still something in you whispers, there's more. There's more. You're not broken. You're remembering. And you're in this time right now because you've felt this shift. Your dreams are more vivid. Your emotions more intense. You feel things before they happen. You're aware that time is unfolding on itself and that you came here for a mission that you still don't fully remember. And deep down, you know you were not meant to walk this alone. And so this is the sacred container for the soul you've always been becoming. And so it's a path for initiates, not dabblers. And so it's for oracles. It's for leaders who lead with light. Those that came here not just to heal, but to become. So if you felt this resonance, if you feel like your body is tingling, or your heart is pulsing, or your soul whispering, that's not inspiration, that's remembrance. You're here to receive the next instruction. That you've already walked this path in other lifetimes, whether you were in the mystery schools of Egypt, the Essene communities of Qumran, the Venusian temples of love and light, the Atlantean grids of crystal and technology, or some other starseed lineage. I also, with a master's in Vedic science and a science of consciousness and human potential, I bring in the Vedas. And so we're working on a galactic embodied initiatory temple for those who came to anchor the new human on Earth. And so we have a 9-month program where you walk the path of the initiate through 3 sacred trimesters. I know we already talked a little bit about, it's called the descent. It is your root reclamation, your safety, your shadow work, earth grid attunement. It's your voice activation, your inner vision, your sacred geometry, how to work with your using your voice, understanding light language, so your star lineage remembrance. And then trimester 3 is the rebirth. It's the DNA activation, the light body ignition, divine leadership, planetary service. And each month of the 9 months aligns to a chakra, an archetype, a god and goddess, and a phase of the 12-part initiatory path. You'll receive things like alchemical teachings and sacred science, guided activations, sound codes and meditations, initiation ceremonies, and monthly integration sessions. We do new moon and full moon temple rituals and lineage transmissions from Thoth, Isis, Magdalene, Yeshua, the Galactic Council of Light, the Galactic Federation. And so you're not walking alone. You're entering a sacred community of other leaders and oracles and light keepers from around the world. If you're tired of trying the same old things all over again and you're like, I want something new, this community, I'll tell you, is really beautiful. This is your invitation to enter the temple. One of the other birds, so you